So, episode the fifth. We're resting outside the Castle Morn Rampart, Site of Grace. We just picked up a sacred tier at the end of the last episode. We're going to use that to increase the amount of HP FP replenished by our flasks. And then we're going to go on a journey today where we're going to pick up a few more of those sacred tiers, grab a couple other items along the way, and yeah, just general exploration of the Weeping Peninsula and Limgrave. So I took the northwest path heading away from the Site of Grace. Going to just generally kind of be riding through the woods here, heading vaguely in a westerly direction. And eventually that'll bring us to an area that has a bunch of different churches with sacred tiers and stuff like that. So I'm very much taking my time in this game. I think that some people treat Souls-like games almost like a boss rush sort of game, where it's get to the next boss quickly and they kind of determine like these arbitrary, here's the level range where you should be taking this boss out and all that sort of thing. I ignore all that and I just kind of play the game in what is just a natural way for me. Oh, and up here in front of this bridge, this is one of those demi-human chiefs that we had just fought as a boss fight. He's kind of sleeping down here as a regular enemy, so stamp him to death. But back to philosophy. I find that if you treat this game as an exploration game rather than as a boss rush game, the difficulty is very reasonable. Like if you actually go and fight the content instead of running past it, you do a fair amount of dungeons before going to the main boss of the area, you'll actually acquire enough power and levels that this game is not difficult, really. And going through and doing that level of exploration, like I'm not farming runes or anything here. I'm not, cheesing any kind of mobs or anything like that to, repeatedly level up. I'm just naturally playing the game, and I'm already at like a level that people would consider maybe be over-leveled for Margit. I think I'm like 23 at this point. We're going to be well into the 30s before we get to Margit. None of it through rune farming, just from exploring the world and doing the things that the content that they made for us to explore here. So if you're new to this game and you're looking up what level should I be before I take on such and such a boss, ignore it as much as you want. I mean, the only I would say the only exception to that is if you are doing multiplayer. I'm doing, offline single solo here. Multiplayers may be a little bit different, but for a single player game, just take your time. This is a wonderful, huge, amazing world to explore. And if you go through it and you take your time and you look into different nooks and crannies, and I'm not, in this portion here, I'm not even close to 100%ing Limgrave and the Weeping Peninsula, but we're going to be very well situated to take out Margit. If you look it up online, we're going to be way over leveled. He's going to be easy, but we're going to have fun on the journey, not just, make it to the boss. That is the thing. Enjoy the world and enjoy going through it. I have a lot of fun treating this as an exploration game rather than as the bosses need to be hard game. Anyways, that's the philosophy I've been taking as I go through this playthrough here. The journey is important, not just the destination. And if you take the time to enjoy the journey, when you get to that destination, it's going to be a lot easier. So while I was rambling there, just ran up along the side of a hill there, made our way to a church where we picked up a sacred tier that we're going to upgrade our flasks with. Melon is there. Can talk to her for a little bit of lore as well while we're in the area. As we exit the church and run down the hill, a couple things off in the distance. One is a walking mausoleum, and then a little bit to the north of that is a church up on the hill. We're going to go to the church up on the hill to get another sacred tier. The walking mausoleum is an interesting game mechanic for later on. There are certain bosses who drop these things called remembrances, which you can either eat to get a ton of runes, or you can turn in to get a some sort of treasure. Sometimes it's a weapon, sometimes it's an armor. Varies depending upon who the particular remembrance came from. Usually each remembrance has two options, so what you can do is at those walking mausoleums you can duplicate them. That's handy if you want to get both of the treasures off of a remembrance, or if you just want more runes. And I usually don't like the remembrance items that much, so I kind of use those as basically giant rune factories. So when you get later in the game and you start killing demigods, you can duplicate their remembrance there. So like, what's his face? Rykard's is worth a ton. Bring him to these walking mausoleums, duplicate Rykard's remembrance, and you get a 50,000 rune golden rune to help you level up some more. That's kind of what I do, but it really depends on you and if you actually like the items from the remembrances or not. But yeah, you can get the blasphemous blade from Rykard, and then duplicate his remembrance like 5 or 6 times at different mausoleums to get a ton of runes to level up. Interesting system. The mausoleums tend to be guarded by these spectral mausoleum knights. They're essentially the same as the regular soldiers and knights you run into with the addition of a teleport, but can handle them the same way either from horseback or with guard counters. But we're going to go inside that church, pick up the sacred tier, and upgrade our flasks again. Next up, we're going to head to a vendor down on the beach. He has the most important item in the game, the lantern, which helps you see in dark caves and stuff like that. It's not the most important item in the game, but it's definitely a great quality of life thing that we're going to pick up. So we're going to head down to him to grab that. So when we get there, we're going to pick up that lantern. He also has a stack of smithing stone 2s, which are great early in the game. We're going to try and buy those. We don't have enough to buy all of them, so we're going to do some inventory cleanup, go through and sell a bunch of our golden runes and assorted kind of crafting material that we're never going to use.
Have a safe journey. Anything else? Have a safe journey.
Right next to him is a site of grace. Gonna sit down there. In addition to being able to buy the smithing stones, selling all the crap also kind of gave us enough runes to level up again, and we're gonna dump that point into vigor as we reach level 25. And as we're leveling up there, we're most of the way to another level up. So what we're gonna do is, conveniently, right in the neighborhood here, there's another one of those sarcophagi graveyards filled with wolves and golden runes. So we're going to run up to that and get enough golden runes that we're going to be able to level up again here. So yeah, just going to continue running up the hill to the southeast here. And eventually we'll get to that sarcophagi graveyard. The usual sort of thing we've seen already a couple of times. Run around to the different open caskets, pick up those golden runes, we'll eat them later. There are some wolves around here. You can ignore them, kill them if you want. I think I kill a couple, then get bored and run away here. The rewards for killing them aren't really that good, so might as well ignore them at this point. I just run away until I'm far enough that the aggro drops off, and then I teleport right back to the isolated merchant down on the beach where we bought the lantern at. Once we're safely back at the site of grace on the beach, I'm going to go nom 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 on a bunch of the runes, essentially just eating golden runes until I have enough to pick up another level. Once we've got enough, going to sit down at the site of grace, level up from 25 to 26, this time pumping endurance up to 16. So there is this adage that I've heard more seasoned streamers use with regards to Souls-like games. And that is that the safest place to put your runes is in your body. So anytime I see that I'm kind of getting close to a level up, I'll try and see if there's stuff that I can sell, or if I can go grab a bunch of runes from a graveyard, something like that, and just, get over that little hump to the next level up. That way I don't get a big sad if I die and I lose all my runes. So, building up a little bit of an inventory of crap that you can sell at any given time to nudge you over into that next level up if you're getting to that point where you're close. It's kind of a habit that I find useful to get into. So in the meantime here, there's a tower up on the hill that you can kind of see from the guy on the beach. We've been riding up that and fighting some of the soldiers on the outside, and we're gonna climb up to the top of this tower, and there's a funny chest up there. So there's several rungs of these ladders to get up to the top here. And mind you, soldiers can climb ladders in this game, so if you don't kill all the ones at the bottom and move quickly at the top, some of them may follow you up and catch up to you. So we're going to kill the soldier who's up the ballista on top. We're going to open the chest, and then, oh no, Admiral Akbar, it's a trap. So there are several of these trap chests in the game. When you get teleported somewhere via one of them, you can't teleport out to another site of grace until you touch a site of grace / rest at one. Luckily, there's a site of grace right here. But this is, again, one of those moments in the game where it's like, wow, this game is huge. And this teleports you, like when you look at your map and you see how far away you are, you're like, there's stuff in between where I was and here. It's great. So this is the capital, which we'll come back to much later in the game. It's at the base of the Erd Tree. And we've been teleported to this area that has a fascinating chest with a treasure in it that is, in my mind, it's like the first talisman that's worth using in the game. And it's guarded by a golem who is much harder than the golem we fought outside the castle in the Weeping Peninsula. So that golem's going to stand up as we run past him. We're going to ignore him. We're going to run to our right. There's a chest. We're going to open up, steal the talisman, and then we are going to panic roll our way back to the site of grace to get out of there, because this guy can one-shot us. And I think I luckily make a narrow escape here. Usually he kills me. But the goal is grabbing what's in the chest, and we do that. And we're going to equip that right away. It is the Blessed Dew Talisman, which gives us very slow amounts of regen, which just makes exploration throughout dungeons and stuff like that so much smoother. So once we have rested at that site of grace, actually going to head back to the Mistwood outskirts, because I completely forgot about our good friend Kenneth Haight. We did his quest in his fort way back in the beginning. So we're going to go turn that quest in and see what happens there. So if you do want Ken's quest to continue here, You do need to keep talking to him over and over and over again until he gives you that like offer to join his service. And when you do that, then you can go back to his fort and meet up with him there. If you don't go all the way through the conversation, he never kind of reappears there, I don't think. I think I did that my last playthrough, and I'm like, where the hell are you? When I went back to the fort, but had to keep talking to him to unlock that little bit of conversation there. So we warp back to Fort Hate, which we'll run up into it, and by the time we get up into it, we will discover that it has been taken over by the demi-humans who were fighting the soldiers who were in it previously. And now that the demi-humans have taken over the fort, we get to kill all of them. They're not quite as nice and peaceful to us as Ken was leading us out to believe, but if we fight our way through them and make it to the top of the fort, Ken will be waiting for us for a further conversation and advancement of that quest line. So this seemingly arrogant little lordling here, he has enough introspection to realize that he is not enough for this moment, and that he's going to have to find a true proper ruler for Limgrave. We're going to run that person a fair amount later. This quest line goes on forever, but it is worth kind of going through it. It does get you towards one of the happy endings in the game for some of the characters. But also, while we're in this neighborhood, I'm going to remember that I forgot to get that half of a medallion that's up at the top of the tower. I started climbing the tower, then I came back down. We're here. I'm going to go up and grab that. That is half of a key that unlocks the way to Leyendell, which was the city we were teleported to a little while ago. This is one of the two ways you can get up there, is by using this half of the this medallion in conjunction with its other half, that I'll show you how to find a little bit later on in a future episode. So I've gone and teleported back to the first steps, which is the first site of grace after you exit kind of the tutorial area. And we're going to go down and explore a little beachfront area. There's kind of a little mini boss down there, some loot we can get and sell. And I'm going to introduce you to the deadliest enemy in the game down there. There's a large group of these bat/harpy things up here. I remember I know magic, so I'm going to use Catch Flame on them, which has a little bit of an AoE, so that'll help with this group out here. Can use the fire pots too, either way works. I just felt like a little variety here, so I'm using Catch Flame to take them out. Then we're going to ride a little ways forward, kind of following along the cliff edges here. There is going to be a Site of Grace up ahead, and we are going to tag that and take a seat. Now, the beach we want to get to is all the way down at the bottom of these cliffs here, and you can start peeking over. You can see there are kind of a couple of different ledges and stuff like that you can maybe drop down to. But what we're going to look for here is a spirit spring, which is kind of a column of air that you can only jump down to when you're on torrent. So you kind of have to like jump into the column of air, and when you see whooshing lines around torrent, you're kind of aiming in a direction where you can fall not to your death, hopefully, if things go as planned. So we're going to skirt along the edges until we find that column of air, and we're going to hop down into it and gently land down on the beach. And up ahead, under a archy column with a fire in it, there is a, I forget if it's an Onyx Lord or an Alabaster Lord. Gravity magic alien guy is basically what he is. He's the mini boss I talked about. Doesn't have a boss bar or anything like that, but he does drop a unique, I forget if it's a spell or an Ash of War. It's a gravity thing. We're not really going to use it. But it's kind of a fun little area down here to explore anyway. So we're going to go and we're going to kill him using the usual stamp upward cut. Then if we continue moving along, there will be a little cave opening in the beginning. Now when we were in the tutorial area, there was kind of an item off to the side at one point that you could kind of see, but not really figure out how to get to. We're going to go grab that item. It is another one of the shitty low tier elemental resistance talismans. It's a giant golden rune. We're going to pick it up and sell it for money later on. Not worth using it, same as the fire one we got in the Groveside Cave, but worth getting for the money. And what I love about this area so much is it's one of the best pieces of environmental storytelling in the game. And you have this guy down on the beach who knows lots of gravity magic. One of these kind of like gravity lord alien guys. And he is setting up right here, right now, our very first encounter with the deadliest enemy in the entire game. And I love that they put this gravity lord down in this area where it is so easy to meet our ends at the hands of that enemy, gravity. So there's our first death, and here's what happened. So Spirit Springs, you're supposed to be able to jump up from and fall down from without dying. But Torrent and I touched the top of a pillar coming down, and that reestablished our starting point for the fall. It took us out of the Spirit Spring. At least that's my best guess. And the fall height from that pillar was enough to kill us. It's fucking dumb. So the game tells us what happens when we die there after your first death. We're going to go hop back down the Spirit Spring to grab our runes that we dropped when we died. Not going to mess around with riding that Spirit Spring back up. Just going to warp back and suck it up. So I was kind of deciding where I wanted to go next there. And on the map, there's these little cave openings you can see sometimes. Those usually indicate mines, which is where you can get upgrade materials for your weapons, smithing stones and somber smithing stones. So I'm going to go to this one that is down in this kind of Lake Agheel area and head there, clear out that dungeon to kind of wrap this episode up on a high note. But yeah, just going to do a fair bit of running through of the lake here to make it there. Going to try and stick to the edges. There's a boss, overland boss, who will spawn if you go too far close to the middle. There's kind of a group of sacrifices set up. don't go near them or the boss will show up. So we're just going to mostly stick to the edges and follow our map marker until we find the opening to that mine. I got distracted and ran out towards this bunch of gas baggy looking things in the middle here. Don't waste your time. The thing that's in the middle isn't worth it. Learn from my mistakes. But eventually I get back on track and we find our way to the Limgrave Tunnels. A lot of times when you get to these mines, there's an elevator. You can, in lieu of taking the elevator, you can jump down ledges on the sides. I usually recommend doing that. A lot of times there's either like runes or smithing stones or stuff like that. And it's good practice for, learning jumping distances and when you just need to walk off a ledge or roll off a ledge instead of jumping. You'll get some gravity deaths when you're learning this for the first couple times, but go down the ledges instead of taking the elevator in these mines, usually. But when we finally do get down to the bottom, there's a site of grace, which we will tag it and take a rest at. So we're going to sneak along in these mines. The miners in these caves, most of them are distracted by what's on the walls, so you can get up right behind them and sneak attack them. Note that they have iframes, aka damage immunity, while they're standing up. Learning that timing and when to attack after you sneak attack them if you don't one-shot them is a whole thing. But usually where there's a miner, there's a smithing stone on the wall, so the yellow thing on the wall is a normal smithing stone, the white ones on the walls are somber. So grab up the smithing stones, we'll use those for upgrading our gear. These guys are slow, but they do hit decently hard. I'm kind of dumb in the way that I'm attacking this first guy who isn't distracted by his work down here. You can guard counter them, and sometimes if you have the right weapon, you can just stun lock them with R1s, I think. But they're generally speaking not too bad. I am trying to lean a little bit on the regen talisman I have going here, but I've taken a fair bit of damage. And I've remembered I have heal magic. If you have heal spells, it is more efficient to use heal spells to heal than it is red flasks. You can actually get more healing out of a blue flask than a red flask if you know healing magic. And as I kind of progress further and further in the game, eventually the allocation of red to blue flasks will even out because of that fact. But I remember I have a heal spell here and I use it. So it's just kind of sneaking through there, getting smithing stones, killing rats. We've made our way to our next little elevator drop down here. Same as before, we're going to drop down on the ledges rather than taking the elevator down. There's a trick that I don't use, which is you can drop rainbow stones down, and if they fall and they don't break, you can make it down to that level without dying. They're just a consumable you can make and craft rainbow stones. And I think if you drop them straight down, that indicates that you can walk off the cliff and land there, I think. I think that's how they work. But you'll note as we were dropping down there, there was a secret passage sort of thing halfway down. We came down the wrong side, I think. But we'll work our way back there later. Now, in this building up ahead, as we go down this hallway, there's going to be some dogs. I'm going to craft up some fire pots to try and take them out. If dogs gang up on you, they will mess you up, and I'm living proof of that coming up right here. Eventually I fall back and get a fire pot off and take them both out. Then a miner comes along, and we take him down too, but this part can be a little bit nasty. Just be prepared for the fact that there are lots of dogs there. Also, anytime you see a building in a mine, check behind it. They like to hide smithing stones and other items behind them. Just, work your way around to the back of them. This one has smithing stones. That's usually what it is, but sometimes there's other goodies too, I think. Alright, so we're heading back to that elevator to take the secret tunnel that's halfway down it. We're going to ride the elevator up and then try to jump as the elevator is coming down, just to make sure we're jumping to the right side. And also, I think if the elevator is going down, sometimes you can fall into the elevator and not die. Maybe. At least I'm hopeful that that's the case. But jump early, and this will just bring us down to another area with a bunch of miners and smithing stones. And eventually, this will bring us to the boss of the area. Yet another elevator shaft to hop down the ledges on, pick up smithing stones on the ledges on the way down. And then when we get to the very bottom, there's going to be a pair of big wooden gates. That is going to be the boss door. Before we go through, we are going to buff up with our Flask of Wondrous Physic. As soon as we step through, we're going to summon our Spirit Ash Wolves, and the boss inside is just a troll. We know how to deal with trolls, so first we're going to drink our blue flask because we're out of FP after summoning our Spirit Wolves, but it's stamp upward, cut at his legs to break his stance, and then crit him. One stance break and a couple of follow-up hits will do it for this guy. He's going to drop a talisman that is kind of useless to us, but again, we can just sell it. And that's where we're going to wrap up this episode on a high note. We had our first death, but we took down this troll. And I will, well, come back for more if you're liking it. Like and subscribe, all that stuff. Hope this is helping you out, and yeah. See you back here, I hope.